cicatrices nous rappellent d'où on arrive. Les combats qu'on doit livrer quand le destin chavire. Guerrier, on fera ce qu'il faut pour la famille. Cœur de lion, œil de tigre, on a la paix dans la mire.
The battles are never ending, I know, but we will get up and get on with the fight. And we'll do whatever for what is right. Just put your trust in us, in us.
Today at interview with a warrior who received Senseï Imran from the school CSMA, which is located in Ottawa. Am I correct?
Absolutely, yep.
Yes, so Senseï Imran, I'm really glad to have you on the podcast because I'm checking your dojo for quite some time now. You're pretty active on the social media and everything. I had the opportunity to see your student compete at my own tournament, but two others tournament too. You guys are pretty good in point fighting and kata too, but point fighting is really, really good in CSMA. So I want to know more about you. I want to know where you come from. So what do you say we start from the beginning, and when do you personally start martial art? Who was your first teachers and everything?
Okay, so I've had a pretty awesome martial arts journey. I mean, my journey's still going. I started as young as 6 years old, and I actually started in Hamilton, Ontario. And the reason why I started karate was I didn't really do well in other sports, which is something I see anyways with so many kids that walk into my studio. They're not successful in other sports like soccer or hockey or anything like that, but they do so well in karate because karate is an individual sport, right? And that's where you're seeing, not only my studio, your studio, everyone's studio. A lot of these studios are kids that weren't successful in other sports, but they found it in karate, right? And since it's such a personal sport, it's such a individual sport, you could see such great benefits, and they thrive through that, right? So I started because I had a neighbor who did it competitively and would come with trophies all the time at home. He was a very good competitor, and this was way back in the day in Hamilton, Ontario. So that's where I was born. I was born in Hamilton, Ontario. And my neighbor used to train, you probably know the studio, it's called United Martial Arts, from Hamilton. So I think it was Trevor Nash's studio a long time ago. It was probably one of the best, I haven't been in Hamilton so long, but at that time, I think it was probably the best one at that time. And when I went to my neighbor's house and I visited and saw his trophies, it kind of inspired me to do karate, and I wanted to win trophies as well too. So we when I was young, we didn't have a lot of money at the time. It was a different time, right, for my family. So my parents, they enrolled me in a karate dojo, but it was one of the cheaper, discount karate dojos that you can sign up for. Very traditional dojo as well too, where you get one belt a year. It was strictly kata, always wearing whites, wood floors, and everything. It was a very traditional dojo. And so I trained there until blue belt, and I actually never really did a tournament when I was training at that dojo. I was very young, and I just kind of went up to blue belt. And then my family, we moved to Ottawa. And then when we moved to Ottawa, there was a couple of studios at the time. I think Duvers was around there too. We had Steve Anderson Karate. We had Leading Edge Martial Arts. We had Pro Style Martial Arts. All kinds of good karate studios here in Ottawa way back in the day. And my parents, again, they wanted to find me a discounted martial arts studio. But when I tried Pro Style Martial Arts, if you don't know the owner, his name is John LaRota, amazing martial artist. When I tried it, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the studio, the community, the environment, the instructor, and everything. And that's kind of what kept me going and kept me into the sport. But it was actually for my family, it was considered an expensive studio for them. And compared to what they were paying before back in the day, back in Hamilton, they had a hard time kind of swallowing the pill for me to sign up there. But I really wanted to sign up because I really liked it, and they ended up, doing it. They did it was probably the best decision that they did to sign me up at that studio, because that's kind of where my journey really started. Now, when I signed up for Pro Style, they made me start as a white belt again. which honestly was probably the best thing for me, right? Because I came in as a blue belt from a different studio, very traditional Shotokan karate. Never actually did sparring as well too. And then when we started our pro style, they made me start as a white belt again, and it was the best thing for me. So it took me about at least 10 years to get my first black belt and that was with pro style martial arts. And I fell in love with the sport, fell in love with watching the international competitors, watching my instructor, Master John, compete and train. And that was kind of one of my goals, was to do tournaments and, compete at world championships and all that kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
I
What was the style? What was the style at that dojo at the time?
So it's Shotokan and Shitoryu style karate. So pro style martial arts is actually the owner, Master John Larota. He got his black belt from Duvras martial arts. So everyone knows Duvras, very well known name in the karate world. But he actually got his black belt there and then started his own studio. And so a lot of the katas, all the knowledge was kind of, he got it from there and started his own. And he actually is still running a studio, believe it or not. That man is about in his 60s. I don't think he wants me to share his age, but he's around in his 60s. He's in better shape than me, can still do the full splits, and he looks like a master in karate. So shout out to him if ever he listens to this. Shout out to him because he was my first instructor, and I was very lucky to kind of have him as an instructor. But I worked at the studio since I was young. I started as a volunteer instructor, helping out with classes. Anything I can do to help at the studio, I would do it. I would, vacuum the mats, clean the mats, do it all for free, whatever I can do. You know what I mean? And then they offered me a job to at least start with birthday parties. So I was helping out with birthday parties, running birthday parties, which then turned into an instructor position. And then at the same time, I was competing at tournaments. And the tournaments is how I really fell in love with martial arts. And I think that's how most of these school owners, like, yourself or some of these young athletes, they fall in love by going to tournaments and decide that they want to make this for life. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like what happened to me. I was going to tournaments every single weekend. I would go to every single Sunfuki tournament possible. So many Sunfuki tournaments, and I loved them. You know what I mean? I went to every single one possible that I could. And then at the same time, bringing my teammates, going with my teammates, with some of my students and stuff. And then there was a time where, every business, they change their goal, their aspirations, or their kind of their direction of what they want to go for the business. And, Pro Style decided to not focus so much on competitive training and obviously focus more on the business, which is fine. That was their kind of decision. And then I ended up meeting with Ben Stewart. So I'm sure you may have heard of Ben Stewart. He used to be the owner of Steve Anderson Karate. And then he kind of he changed it to CSMA. It was an older version of CSMA. And I met with him at the dojo. I met with him at the gym, and then I just started training at his studio, and I just kind of switched over just because of more of the focus of competitiveness. Now, a lot of times that's frowned upon in our industry. And at the time, obviously, my original instructor wasn't happy, but as time went by, me and my instructor, we patched it up, and we're still really good, and I still have a great relationship with Master John. In fact, I still talk to him regularly. Sometimes I see him at the gym. But kind of switching over and linking up with Ben Stewart was another just great decision and great move, and big change and pivot in my life. So I trained with him, ended up working at CSMA for a bit. And then, training athletes privately, all that kind of stuff. And at the same time, I was in university. I ended up going to University of Ottawa for sciences, actually. So I ended up going to university. And the reason why I went to university is because everyone else was going to university. That was honestly it. I ended up trying to do the academic path at the same time doing private lessons and teaching at the studio. So I was balancing the two. And honestly, I always love martial arts and training and teaching. And I was doing the school path to make my parents happy and just to kind of do what everyone else was doing in my age group. And then as I was working at CSMA at the time, and at that time, CSMA was a different brand, different logo, doesn't look like this. But at that time, There was a time where Ben Stewart wanted to move on and sell his business and move on, so I ended up buying into the business with another partner as well too. So I kind of dropped out of university. 4 years in, I dropped out and decided that I wanted to do this forever, and it was probably another amazing, best decision I've ever made. And I'm a firm believer that if you're gonna make a decision, you got to go all in on it. You can't just go half. You really got to go all in. So I kind of dropped the school and went all in on this. Um, so I had a partner, and things were great with my partner. And then the pandemic happened, and as we all know, what happened in the pandemic, it was all businesses, martial arts studios shut down. So many martial arts studios closed down, went out of business. But not us. In fact, it was actually the best thing that happened to CSMA, and one of the best things that happened to me as well too. During the pandemic time, we immediately pivoted to virtual classes, just like I'm sure you did. Other martial arts studios did as well too. And I made sure I fully invested in that virtual program. So we started with teaching with a phone, with some AirPods, and I was teaching classes. And then when I realized that this pandemic is going to go longer, we need to kind of fully invest in this program. So I bought professional camera, professional equipment like you have for your podcast, microphones, everything like that. And we just started marketing the program. And that's one thing I love too, is marketing. I started making ads for virtual martial arts. I started targeting not only my area, not only where I am, but around Ottawa. I actually targeted Montreal. I targeted Toronto, and I had members training with me virtually from around the province and Quebec as well too. And all I did was just kind of make sure I could teach a good virtual class, a good virtual program, and then just market it to everyone, and kind of just going in on the idea that everyone has to stay home, but kids need to still keep working out, keep moving for their mental health, for physical health and everything. And it was one of the best things. So during that pandemic, I ended up buying out my business partner. Things happened and I bought him out, and then I rebranded the CSMA to what you see today. Um, Now that rebrand,
What CSMA stands for?
C-
What's the meaning of
CSMA
the
stands
four
for
letters?
Canadian Sport Martial Arts Academy, right? So we're very proud that
Okay,
we
good.
are a Canadian business. I'm a Canadian as well too. I was born in Canada. I might not look it, but I was born here. So I am a Canadian, very proud Canadian as well too. But as well too, we're sport martial arts. So our goal for our academy is to create martial artists, to create well-rounded martial artists, and kind of our goal is to be a striking academy, right? So we don't just teach point fighting at our academy. We teach kickboxing, we teach Muay Thai, we take the best of different styles of striking to make sure that we have good strikers here at the studio. So that's kind of the name and the goal of this academy, and that's one thing that I really changed as well too, because I back in the day, just like I'm sure other studios have evolved as well too, but we had more of a traditional focus, more focus on kata, more focus on this, which is important. I mean, I used to be a very strong forms competitor myself. And I still believe in doing kata and bo and all that kind of stuff. But when I changed the curriculum to more of a combat style curriculum, teaching diving blitzes as white belts, all that kind of stuff, teaching skip kicks right away and everything, I noticed my students went from here to here. I noticed that the fighting, as you can see, the fighting got better as well too, and again, just kind of investing in the fighting as well too. Like we brought in some of the best fighters to come to our studio to not only train with our team, but also train with us, train with me, and learn, and so I can learn from them and implement it in the curriculum as well too. So a big evolution in the program, a big evolution in the studio. And now, with that pandemic, I now have 3 locations. I just opened one just over a month ago. And just over a month, our studio already has 40 members, and we haven't really done a crazy amount of marketing just yet. We're not even in the busy time, as you know, and I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit more about business. But as you know, in the martial arts business industry, the busiest times are the fall, back to school season. We got January, all that kind of stuff. So I opened the studio about April, so it's kind of in the middle of the year, right? But already kind of a big start to the studio. And then by the end of this year, I think that studio is going to be pretty full, with anticipation. Okay. But yeah.
I had a regional question for you because there's something I can observe. I kind of figure out about the Ottawa region. It's special for me because it's a big city, right? And you have Gatineau on the other side of the river. So you have a very populated region if you add up the two cities.
Hmm.
And yet, not so many tournaments for the Eastern Ontario in particular in sports martial art and martial art in general that I know of. I know there are some few little tournament regional on the Quebec side,
Hmm.
which are all good. And this is one of the reasons that I started the Bugdor this year because I was thinking Quebec side need a bigger tournament for united the region, right? So what do you think make miss in Ottawa? What's needed to unify or create something? I don't know because there's Sensei John, Master John with the WKC. He did an amazing job. WKC is great, but it's more like a circuit, right? It's not like a regional event. It's a Canadian event.
Hmm.
So it's a qualification. It's not really like a regional tournament. So you talked to me about your vision about tournaments for the future. So I'm curious to hear you about that for the Ottawa region.
Absolutely. I think it's a lot of things, right? I think the pandemic definitely played a role to kind of kill the competitive side in some of these Ottawa studios. I know for us as well too, we didn't have a lot of because of what happened in the pandemic. Obviously, we didn't focus as hard as we are now on our on competition students and just kind of relying on tournaments because I mean, as a studio owner, I mean, running a tournament is you're doing it more for the passion of the sport, and it's also just a tradition in karate. Like it is a tradition that you have to, you have a tournament. And I say that, I ran my in-house tournament about a couple weeks ago, which was a huge success. It's just for the CSMA members, and it looks like a real tournament. I'm sure you saw the rings; they're pretty cool. You gave me the idea, by the way. I love that. But I do that tournament because it's more for the passion. It's more for the tradition of martial arts, right? It is a tradition that you should compete. You should do at least one tournament in your martial arts journey. Maybe it's not for you in the future, but everyone should do at least one, right? Everyone.
All right, try
I
it
say that to my students.
once in a while.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. I say
yeah,
that at my studio all the time, right?
yeah.
So that's why I run that tournament. And that tournament, like when you have multiple locations, like Sunfuki has so many locations, you guys have your little Sunfuki tournaments, and it feels like a real tournament because of all your locations. It's amazing, and I love that. And that's my big goal for CSMA is more locations and having a bigger in-house tournament. But my next goal as well too is to have like you said, a regional tournament because like you said, Master John Duvras has done an incredible job, and he's kind of also held the tournament Ottawa scene on his back for a really, really long time. And he's been doing it solo, with his company solo for a long time. A lot of the only tournaments that you would see in Ottawa are Duvras running tournaments, right? Which is hats off to him. He's been doing it for so long, and he does an incredible job, right? But I kind of think we should have more tournaments here in Ottawa. That's why I kind of chat with you about it. And when you did the one in Gatineau, which was just over the bridge, it's to me that's considered Ottawa, anyways. I was so happy to even hear about that tournament because I think that's just the start, right? You have your tournament. I'm sure maybe Duvras they're working on some of their own tournaments, but we definitely want to run and host our own tournament next year, and we're already kind of in the works and in the talks of finding something and getting something going because that's I grew up in tournaments. I used to go to tournaments every weekend. Again, I went to all the Sunfuki tournaments as a kid every year. I would never miss a Sunfuki tournament. I go to International Cobra, Rivnar, Laval Open, like religiously. I would not miss those tournaments. I love them. You know what I mean? And the friends you make, all that kind of stuff, just the journey is just so amazing. So we do want to run a tournament here. And I think, just to answer your question about what's missing here in Ottawa, I think there's not enough competitive studios in Ottawa. I think you have the main, Duvers, they're a big competitive studio, and us, we're a competitive studio as well, too. So you don't have a ton. I think with the pandemic, what had happened is that it kind of squished that a little bit right over here in Ottawa, and everyone just kind of focused on their studios. right? And then the other side of it too, there is a big jiu-jitsu focus here in Ottawa as well too. There's quite a lot of jiu-jitsu studios, and they obviously run their own kind of style of competitions as well too. So, but you know, my goal is to make sure I want to change that. I want to have our own tournaments and have a yearly tournament, and I have some pretty cool ideas for my tournament as well too. But yeah, no, I think it's going to change in the next few years. I think you kind of did a great job at kind of getting that going, hosting your first tournament, which was just across the bridge. Great for, you know, people from Ottawa. And I think if we host a tournament as well too, and then Duvers keeps hosting their stuff, I think that's going to change in the next few years.
So if we create more and more quality events for the region, for the area, I think it will help develop a mass of quality competitors that will be hunger for that will have hunger for more after, right? That's my target.
I, I I agree, and I think it just elevates the sport a little bit too. You know what I mean? And I think that's the big goal. I mean, the longer the sport stays, the longer studios like us stay, and you know and I think it just kind of elevates that sport. And again, like I've been doing, it's always been a dream of mine to run my own tournament. You know, running my first in-house tournament was such a fun event, and I think hosting a big tournament like and inviting studios from across the province and Quebec as well too. I think that's gonna be the next goal, and again, we're trying to target for something next year. And that's what we're trying to do. And I think so far it looks like we're on track. And you know, again, you just got to communicate with everyone, make sure everyone's on board as well too. Talk to the right people, and then I think we're gonna be ready for next year.
Cool. And you said you just opened a new location. Where was your headquarter, and where are the new location now?
So my headquarters is in Stittsville, Ottawa. So that's more west of Ottawa. I have a location in Barhaven as well too. So that's more of the south of Ottawa. And I just opened a new location in Canada North. So it's not that far from my Stittsville location, but it's not too close at the same time, right? So it's about just over 10 kilometers away. It's a smaller studio compared to my other ones. But it's honestly it's grown very fast, much faster than I anticipated, and I'm pretty happy about it. And I've been working on that location for almost a year now. I've been trying to find a good location, a good place to do it. Actually, in fact, someone actually during the pandemic, someone reached out to me to buy out their location where I opened it, and I kindly declined because I just didn't like some of the details in the lease and everything like that. I just waited it out until something good came up, and I hopped on it, right? So I mean, I feel like you can't rush these things. I've made that mistake before where I've rushed things in business, and then you end up with more problems, or things cost a little bit more money, this, that, right? So this one, I really took my time. I want to build a stronger instructor team as well too. And now the three locations are kind of running themselves, and I'm hoping to open more in the next year or two.
What is your student profile? Do you teach only kids, or do you take adult too? What is the curriculum for everyone?
So we start as young as 3 years old, and we also have adult programs as well too. Our curriculum, it teaches a mix of everything. So it's not just a traditional karate curriculum. We will teach, you know, kickboxing combinations, Muay Thai combinations, Taekwondo style kicks, Shotokan karate katas. So just a good, like, you know, I mean, we're always evolving and changing our curriculum. So it's not always staying the same. I would say every like 6 months, or even definitely at the end of the year, we make some changes to the curriculum. We kind of, you know, we go over kind of what's working, what's not working. And what I mean by what's working is that, you know, are we teaching it correctly? Are we teaching it well? Is the team teaching it well? And are the students performing it correctly and performing it well, right? So if I'm teaching, for example, if it's a beginner belt and I'm teaching them a diving blitz or a skip kicks diving blitz, just an example, right? So skip kicks follow up with a diving blitz. And then when it's time for testing time and I'm testing it and seeing how it looks, if it's too difficult, I find it too difficult, or this doesn't look good on the students, or it's hard for them to get it, then I might pull it out of the curriculum, right? Maybe I'll wait till a little bit later, all that kind of stuff. So it's all about, I think what the curriculum is about, you know, implementing, and then you got to assess it to make sure it actually makes sense. And the way you assess is you got to assess your students, see how it looks on your students, but you also got to assess how the instructors are teaching it, right? So we do instructor training often. I do meetings every week with my instructors, and every time we rotate and change the curriculum, we go over drills that we're going to do, and we always brainstorm and bounce off each other about different drills, and then that way we can kind of implement the same drills, and we're working on the same stuff, and then we can see what's working as well too. So that's the way I kind of format that curriculum, and that's how my curriculum's changed. And the reason why my curriculum's like that as well too is that is so I can hire instructors from different styles of martial arts. I don't always need to hire from CSMA, and this is a very old school thing that to me, honestly, it slows down your business. If you're always waiting for an instructor to get their black belt and then and then teach and be a certain age, you're waiting for that one student to kind of get up there and then you're going to hire them, right? You're waiting too long. In fact, there's so many martial artists in our city that have great backgrounds in Muay Thai or backgrounds in Taekwondo, or some of them have karate backgrounds as well too, right? That are willing to, as long as you're providing a good wage, good benefits and everything, they're willing to work at your studio, and they're willing to adapt as well too, right? So a good example is that I hired a Muay Thai guy, so someone that's done Muay Thai for 10 years, amazing fighter, full contact fights, and I'm not, when I'm looking to hire someone, an instructor, I'm never looking for skill. I'm not looking for world championships or knockouts and everything. In fact, I've done that before and it was a mistake. It didn't work out. You know what I mean? I always aim to hire based on personality, based on experience and working with kids. Cause that's the number one thing. We are a kids focused program. Yes, we offer adult programs as well too, but we are kids focused, and that is my main goal. You won't have a strong competition team unless if you have a strong business, right? You got to make sure that you have a strong business first, and then the competition team will be successful, and that's how we can bring in the best fighters and invest in our training, right? So I make sure that I have good instructors and make sure I hire based on personality. And back to that example of the Muay Thai guy, he's actually training to become a karate CSMA black belt. He's going for his black belt with us this year. And a lot of the stuff that we teach are basic boxing, kickboxing techniques anyways. So if you have that experience of boxing or Muay Thai or Taekwondo, you fit in very well with teaching at my studio. As long as you can train and you can adapt and teach the way that we teach, most people have no problem with that.
Mm-hmm. And as a practitioner who starts with traditional, or I would say more traditional school, and who is now running sports martial art, openly sport martial art oriented dojo, what would you say to traditionalist people? When you look at YouTube video, it's often it's awful. You see comments under kids' performance, and old people be like, Jedi training, bullshido and stuff like that. For me, it's kind of an old debate and an old conversation, but we sadly still see that on the network, on the internet and everything. So what could you answer to those people? For you, what are the benefits of sports martial art, and what could be the strength of sport martial art compared to more traditional dojo for you?
I feel like though, first of all, to those people that make those comments, they're not, I would say they're not really real martial artists. I would say they just are stuck in the past. And I think true martial artists understand and know that you can learn from any style of martial arts. You can benefit from any style of martial arts. And I think it's so important in general as a studio owner, as a martial artist in general, to continue your training, but to also seek other information, train in different styles, right? And see what can you put in your curriculum. So, I mean, I do that myself. I train different styles. I try to train different styles as much as I can. I know, we're all busy as studio owners. It's hard to find the time, but it's important to do so. So to those guys that do that, they're stuck in the past. People have been, the thing is though, those guys that say that online, there's so many people that are thinking that at tournaments. There's so many judges that think that as well too. You know what I mean? Like you'll watch a open kata where they're doing all the flips and they've got the kamas and they're doing this, and you all will always have that one judge or that one person that's at the tournament being like, "That's not real martial arts. That's acrobatics." Blah 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 blah. I think it's just it's just haters being haters. I think you're always gonna have people saying stuff like that about anything, right? But to those traditional style people, that's just kind of an old school style of training to just always stick to your style, right? I think you're gonna see this a lot in a lot of young martial artists. There's a lot of younger people than me that are doing this as well too, and a lot of these guys are training different styles just to kind of expand your brain, expand your mind, because it's important as a studio owner, as a martial arts owner, to always evolve as a martial artist. Your business is only going to grow. Your studio is only going to grow if you're growing, right? If you're growing mentally, you're growing physically, you're growing as well too as a business. That's the only way you're gonna grow. So I hope I answered that question well. What to say to those guys? I think those guys are just a bunch of haters, and I think they just need to expand their mind a little bit. And I think at the same time, they're saying it online, but a lot of people are saying that and thinking that in person when you go to some of these tournaments, right? And those are just people that are stuck in the past, and they're not true martial artists because they haven't evolved their training, they haven't opened up their mind a little bit.
Yeah. And they hate on the internet, but then you invite them and they don't show up. So,
Oh
so
yeah. I mean,
we can pass on that. But yeah, it's a really good answer. And for me, it's like compare, it's two discipline for me, completely different. So I have to say that uh, when you see traditional forms, right, it could be kind of hard to judge a real traditional form compared to a Nazca-like traditional form, and they
mhm.
shouldn't compete together because it's not the same thing. And for me, if you ask me, Nazca shouldn't call their traditional kata. Like call that
Mhm.
art style kata or modern, whatever, but it's anything but traditional. If you want to
Yeah.
be traditional, call that Kabuto traditional form if it's with weapon, and traditional kata should be listed from a curriculum that you can trace, right? And that's it. And for me, you compare artistic skating to hockey, it's ridiculous. So
Yeah.
you can't do that, right? Yeah, you both have skate, but they don't do the same sport at all. So same basic, but not the same results to me, right?
No, I totally agree.
I really like your business mind, and I'm curious to know what you think about that too, because how do you manage to balance your passion as a martial artist and to keep in mind what's important for the business and do what's necessary? Me, I run two dojos, and you're good to run three. Props to you. Two for me is enough, but I have sides contract too. I do many things, and running business is hard. And with the economics right now, it's harder and harder. So, what keeps you going with that, knowing that it's difficult? And how do you do to stay passionate for your art and stay passionate for your business?
I think for me, a lot, and I'm extremely passionate about my studio, and I'm always repping my studio, my business, and I'm in love with this logo, and I'm kind of addicted to seeing it everywhere. You know what I mean? Look, it's on my water bottle right here. It's on my shirts back there. If you come, it's literally everywhere, and it's kind of becoming an addiction to me. Just I want it everywhere. I want people to see my logo. I think it's actually a really nice brand as well too. I think it's a people see it and they recognize it now, especially here in Ottawa. So to balance the business and passion, I mean, like it doesn't feel like work to me, right? This is if you're so passionate about it, then you're not working at all. Like I work nonstop, morning to I'm in the morning. I'm either doing meetings, doing business work, doing stuff, whatever. And then I'm here until close time, till at least 9:30, right? So it's more of a passion to me. It's more of, just, and if you're passionate and if you love this so much, the business side, it comes easy, right? And I think you just really need to just have some fun with the business. That's what's going to keep the balance, right? Like you have fun with your business. Look, you ran your own tournament. You have a championship ring. I'm sure you loved seeing that logo on that ring. And when I saw the ring, I was like, I need my logo on a ring. I don't have one here. I should have brought it here. I think
I
it's in
can
the other
insert
room.
it.
But
You send me a picture. I will insert it so people can see.
I'll send you a picture. It turned out so nice. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
when I saw your ring, and one of my students won a ring. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, wow, I need this. We need this so bad because it looks
Mm.
so nice, right? And just the idea of just seeing because your logo and your business on anything because that's just a part of you. It ends up becoming a part of you, right? Your business, and just to see it everywhere, just it inspires you and motivates you, right? So. I think also it's just momentum. I've been through times in my life where I build momentum, and I always say, "What's next? What's next? Let's open another studio. Let's do this. Let's do that." Right? But I've also been in times in my life where the momentum stopped. And I've been there before where I've hit a wall in my business. I've hit a wall. Actually, recently I just hit a wall in my training. I messed up my knee on Monday. But I've been here before. I've done it before. I can do it again, right? I can get back on it. Same with business. I've hit a wall before, and I've gone back on that horse and kept riding, right? So I think it's to balance the two is you could be working at Costco, you can be working at a high tech, you can be working for the government and, just working for someone else or just, being at a desk on your computer and not making an impact on this planet. Or you could be working at any dojo and, that one class you teach can change someone's life, right? So I think to me, I think we got to live life with purpose. And I think, your job doesn't need to be your purpose. It doesn't, some of us are parents, like I'm a dad as well too. I got two kids. We all have different purposes. But this is my purpose here. My purpose is to build CSMA, to make more locations, to make, more black belts, more champions and more martial artists. And I've realized that recently in the last year or so. So that's why I've just kind of been nonstop with working and grinding and just loving the journey.
And you seem to be a guy which is good with branding and marketing and everything. I want to hear about something. We talked sooner in the podcast about new ideas, like the mind with the rings, right? And to me, when I do something, I'm trying to be innovators, right? I'm trying to bring new ideas to the table. And it's kind of sad, actually, because when you look at social network, everybody's doing the same thing on the marketing side of it because everybody's using ChatGPT and all the other stuff like that, right? So all the visuals look the same. So to me, it's important as martial artists to be leaders on that domain because we have to cultivate and to improve human beings as a whole, right? So we should be the one that push creativity, and we should be trendsetters, not followers, right? What do you think about that?
I agree. And the Chat GPT stuff, I agree. You know what I mean? I think, if you want to talk about AI, I could talk really quick, but, I think you should be using a little bit of AI in your business, right? Or it does help with some things. But you are seeing on the internet so many similar stuff. And I actually tried it once. I did a post on my social media. I was in the hospital on Monday because I dislocated my kneecap. So I was in the hospital and I'm like, I can't be here not doing anything. So I played around on ChatGPT and I made one of my posters for our Father's Day karate class. And that was the first time I ever used AI to make an image for the business. Usually I use AI for other things for the business, but to make an image for the business, I've never done it. So I'm like, let me try it out. And it turned out really nice, right? And I was like, oh, this is really nice. And then I started scrolling and there's so many other martial arts studios, same layout, same layout, same layout. And I told myself, okay, this is the last time I use this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna use this again. Yeah, I'm not. I just did it once. Just to try. I also just needed to make that poster really fast. Usually I use other softwares for it, or I'll get someone to just design it for me. But I was in the hospital. I was bored. I was waiting, so I was like, let me just play around with this. This is pretty cool. And then, like I said, like you said, everyone is doing it, right? And that's the thing. If you're doing what everyone else is doing, you're not going to stand out as a business, right? And that's kind of going back to the pandemic. If you remember that time, so many martial arts studio owners were complaining about not being open. They were complaining, they were whining, they were mad, and I was upset too. Don't get me wrong. I don't agree with everything that happened, but it's not really in our control. But what I can control is my effort. I can't control my attitude. So while everyone was complaining and waiting it out, we took action. We did things differently. And we kind of, instead of fighting the trend, fighting the social distancing and fighting the virtual, fighting all of that, which a lot of other studios did, we embraced it and we were one of the first and best to do it in our city, right? And so like I think if you're doing what everyone else is doing, you're just gonna get the same results as everyone else. And if you want different results, you want better results, you want to stand out as a business, then you gotta do things differently. And that's one thing about CSMA. In my city, we stand out as a martial arts studio here. We're very well known, and we only have 3 locations, right? But we just stand out because we just do things differently, right? We do belt testings differently. We run events here differently. We run tournaments differently. Like when we ran our in-house tournament, it looked like a real tournament. You know, the what we invested in, the table, everything. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, most in-house tournaments. Studios will run it in their studio. We rented out a space, and again, we made it look like a real tournament, right? So, I think just if you do things differently, it also challenges everyone around you as well too. It makes people level up a little bit more. My competitors level up a little bit more as well too. So if I'm doing things differently with my business here, right here, I know that my competitor neighbor businesses, they're gonna try to catch up with me, and they're gonna do things differently as well too. So it makes everyone better, right? If you're just kind of challenging yourself as a business and doing things differently.
It's funny to hear a guy who teach sport martial art, modern martial arts, speak about being able to be creative and create new stuff. And I see so many traditional dojo using ChatGPT for everything, including text. You're not even able to post a little something that comes from your heart. You need a robot for that now. I'm shocked every time. I'm shocked. And don't hear me wrong. I use stuff like Canva. I use technology, and I'm not all against AI. I'm just against laziness that AI creates for the spirits, for the body, for the mind, for everything, for relationship, whatever. It creates laziness collectively. And I think as martial artists, we're supposed to be artists, right? We're supposed to be leaders. We're supposed to be ahead of the curve, not following the curve. It's really a thing that I have at heart. So it was really interesting to have you, Imran, today. It's a really fun talk and really different, I have to say, and refreshing. I like that. I'm going to keep you for a few minutes more for our Patreons. And it's just a rapid fires, a question, and more funny question maybe, and we'll see you there. And I have a blast with you today.